name is Keely and I'm the owner and creator here at Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for another soap making video. Today I am making Succulent Cacti. It's a layered soap and it is decorated on the top, as you saw in the beginning photo, with the piped cacti and succulents that we did in the behind the scenes video this week. I'm using Cactus Flower from Brambleberry, which is a really nice, clean, fresh aroma, and I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Let's go and see how I make my Succulent Cacti soap. Okay, so let's get into making this soap. I am going to be working in layers today, but I do want to have a bit of working time between each of my layers. So I am going back to whisking in my lye water solution into my oils. So just going to very gently pour that in there, giving it a stir until it all comes together, and then I will start splitting it for the first layer. So if you are actually wanting to have a go at doing your whisking of the soap, which is actually becoming quite a popular thing to do at the moment, you need to have either a silicone whisk, preferably try and get a silicone handle as well. I just make sure that the plastic bit doesn't come into contact with the soap, or you can get in a stainless steel whisk as well. First thing I'm going to do is split off some colour for the bottom of the soap. I'm going to pour off about half of this bucket here, I think, or half of the jug. That looks like, let's go a little bit more. We'll go up to about 3/4 of that jug, because I want this layer to be quite a deep layer. What I'm going to do into this one is I am going to add in some Mocha Mica. I am also going to add in a little bit of my fragrance now as well. We're doing about 1/3 of the soap. So I've poured in about 1/3 of my fragrance oil, and now I'm going to use the stick blender to mix all that in. Okay, that's looking good. I've brought that up to about a medium trace, which is fine because we are wanting to do the layers. Alright, so I'm just going to grab my loaf mold here and I'm going to pour this one straight into the bottom here. I'm going to let it set up for a little bit, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to put a little bit of texture through it. Okay, so it looks like this has set up quite nicely, and I'm just going to get my spoon in there, and I don't want it to be too peaky, but I just want it to be a little bit more rocky sort of thing, a bit like you would find in the Earth's atmosphere, those sort of layers of dirt and earth and rocks and things like that. It is smelling really clean and fresh. It's one of those fragrances in the bottle. It did actually smell quite subtle, but I think it's going to really shine through in this end soap and smell really, really good. So I've just put a few little divots, making sure I'm coming right up to the edges of my soap mold so we don't have too many harsh lines there. Missed a patch in there. And now what I'm going to do is go and get my tea strainer, and we're going to do a little bit of a mica line. For my mica line, I am going to use some Bronze Sparks from my Mica Obsession. It's again one of these thicker sort of micas, so it does really well at doing these mica lines. And I am just tapping it all over the top, trying not to get it too thick, but also needing it thick enough that when we actually cut the soap, we can see that mica line as well. Also trying not to get it too far up the sides of the mold so it doesn't actually mess with the rest of the design. So coming down nice and low, just giving that a bit of a tap. That is looking really nice. I'm not bothered if it's not completely covered. That is looking really good. So we'll move on to the next layer. Alright, so that bit is done. We're going to move on to the next layer. This should still be nice and loose and fluid. What I'm going to do is grab myself a clean jug here, and I'm going to pour off about another almost 1/3 into this pot. That should about do it. And into this one, I'll pop that over there out of the way. I am going to put in some titanium dioxide. So give that a nice bit of squirt there. And then also into this layer, I have some apricot kernel seeds. I'm hoping this will give it a little bit more of a visual effect and a little bit of exfoliation there as well. And I've added in about 15 sort of grams there, and I'm going to pour in my fragrance as well, maybe just a little bit more. Going to mix this up, and then we're going to pour it on top of that brown. Got that one completely scraped out. Again, I'm going to leave this one to sit here for a while just to thicken up. I'm actually going to, no, I'll actually maneuver it a bit later. So I'm just going to leave that one there. We'll be back in a bit to do the next bit. Okay, so this is also now setting up nicely. And what I want to do here is just kind of push a bit of this up and over onto this side. This is looking like a cookies and cream sort of inspired soap here, but it's certainly not meant to be cookies and cream. I want to try and create a bit more of a sort of dip in the land, kind of if you were imagining the layers of the earth once upon a time, maybe a river or a creek ran through this little bit and has left a divot in the ground, so this side's a bit higher up, like so. Just going to get that bit all nice and smoothed back down there. Oh, it's just looking so good. It really does look like this should actually be a food-inspired soap instead of a cactus and succulent one. Alright, I am almost finished playing in here. Oh, that's a bit easier and quicker. Alright, so let's get that spoon just wiped off. I'm going to give that a knock down just to knock out any bubbles that I may have put in there. Alright, now we can move on to the next layer. But before I forget, because I almost did, it was only because I was cleaning up I remembered, I was meant to save off a little bit of this, and I have put in there a little bit of Olive Grove Mica. I'm going to mix that up with the stick blender, and then I'm going to leave it to one side to thicken up, just to do a little bit of extra piping on the top of this soap. Into this jug here, in fact I'm going to go into this jug here, I've changed my mind. I'm going to pour off a bit more of this soap, in fact a fair bit of that one I think. That looks about right. And just to make it easier with what is actually left in this jug, or in this container, I'm going to pour into here. There's not quite enough to be able to mix this one in the pot and not create a whole heap of air bubbles. So I'm going to get this one scraped out, and then we'll come back and colour them. Before I actually do get to colouring those, I'm going to add another mica line to this particular layer here. So we'll grab our bronze mica. I'll just grab my spoon again. I'm going to put a little bit of that mica in there, like so. And I'm just going to tap that all over the top until I have a nice covering. So I have my mica line in there. I'm going to come back to this pot. I want to make it lighter or a different brown to what was on the bottom. So I am going to be using a little bit of the latte mica. So I'll pop some of that into this one. Actually, I might just pop a little bit more in there like so. And I'm going to add my fragrance and give it a mix and then pour it on top of that soap. this one now, grab my spatula as I did before. I'm going to use it to break that fall, and I'm just going to gently pour it across where that, mainly where that sort of divot line is. Just want to make sure that that goes all the way down. I have mixed this one up quite thick this time. Whoop. I'm going to leave it like that for a moment. Just going to make sure that that is coming right up to the edge of my mold there. Alright. I'm going to add a bit more of a mica line across the top of this brownie colour, making sure I'm paying particular attention to coming up where that last mica line is as well, because I want that sort of clear definition here. So I'm going to keep tapping away. Alright, so just while that is hardening up a little bit into this pot, I am going to put in a little bit of Bronze Sparks Mica. I'm going to put the rest of the fragrance and I'm going to mix that in. Alright, so let's give that brown just a bit of a stir just to loosen that up. And what I'm now going to do is pour that brown in there, scrape it all out. Because I got two different textures of soap in there, we should get a really interesting swirl through that bit. Let's get that completely cleaned out. I'm going to get my spatula, give that a bit of a mix or a fold just to really incorporate all of that. And now I'm going to finish pouring the rest of this on top of this soap. A bit of a wiggle around with my spatula just to get it all moved out nicely, and then I'm going to give it a knock down just to make sure we've got all of those sort of trapped air bubbles out of this one, just making sure that this is going to be nice and even along all of the soap. It's a bit higher up in the middle here than it is at the end. Alright, I can see some air bubbles there too. Let's get all of them knocked out and level. Alright, so I'm actually going to leave this one sit here for a couple of minutes just to really firm up, and I'm going to clean up some of my mess, and then we will come back and we will put the embeds on the top of this soap and really bring it to life. Alright, so let's get our embeds onto the top of this soap. These are what we piped in the behind the scenes video this week, and I'll leave a link for you up in the top corner. I have also got this little pot of what are meant to look like little pebbles. These have been made over quite a number of weeks. Every time I've had little bits of scrap soap from browns and greys, I've just popped them into a little bag and in this pot. And between me and my mum, we've actually made up all these little pebbles. Quite often when my mum's been around here chatting to me, she sits there rolling up all these little balls for me. And I just wanted them to look like little rocks that you might find out in the desert. And I also sat doing some in front of the TV. So we're going to put them on afterwards. Now I piped these ones here. Now I don't have one for every single one of these bars of soap, but they will all get at least a form of succulent or cacti on them. So that's a little cacti with a little blossoming flower on the top, and all I'm going to do is stick them on randomly here. And let's grab these. After I actually finished making them, I didn't show it in the actual making video, but I did give them a bit of a spritz with some Blizzard Mica just to help really pick up the lines. Most people, when they print, pipe these cacti, they then put little white dots down the side, which are meant to resemble the sort of spikes that you might find on a cacti, but I don't really like them, so I decided that I was just going to put a little bit of that Blizzard Mica, and hopefully that would make it look like there are little spikes on the cacti. So we're going to pop all of these ones on first. Oh, we've got two more left here. That's another one. And let's put one up there. Now the other type I have is this kind of looking, cabbagey looking sort of succulent here. I'm sure they've all got names. I don't know what they are, but I'm just going to start randomly sticking those ones in as well. And then we have these kind of spiky leaf looking ones as well. So I did the 3 different types, and I am just going to start sticking them all on the top here, trying to work a bit quicker so that I don't lose that sort of sticking time to get them stuck onto the soap here. Hopefully we can fit a majority of these on here. Alright. Whoops. Might go for some of these smaller ones. I may have piped a few too many here, but that's alright. I'll do something again like I did with that spring soap that I did the other day, where I just stuck all these random flowers and things on. We can scoot that one across a bit, stick another one of those in. Oh, we need some of these spiky ones down this end, don't we? Mention on the spring flower one that I did that they cringed when I saw that I'd put 2 sunflowers together. Sometimes it might look a little bit odd when I put 2 very similar sort of flowers or cacti or succulents together, but I am actually also thinking about where the bars are going to get cut as well, so it might look a bit funny as a whole sort of concept. But once we start cutting the soaps, they should all get their own little individual pieces on here. Just going to make some space in there, and we'll tuck another one of these in there because I'm really happy with how those ones came up. Alright, I think that might do it for those bigger ones. I am now going to scatter some of these around to make it look like there are little rocks, and then I'm just going to push them down into the soap so that they stick. So I've actually had this soap down on paper since the beginning of the year. I actually drew this design out before I found the fragrance oil that I wanted to use for it. Usually I get fragrance oils in and I smell them and I come up with the sort of design idea that I want for them. But this one was completely different. I knew that I wanted to do a cacti or succulent soap because I'd been seeing lots of cakes made with them. This was before lots of soaps started popping up being made with succulents and cacti. It was at the time that the cakes started doing it first, and I had this fragrance oil this pattern sitting there waiting for me to find the right fragrance, and as usual I've left my idea sitting there so long that the craze is almost over again. So oh well, I'm sure this one will still be very popular. I'm really pleased with how those little rocks are coming up. What I'm going to do now is just with this green that I piped over at the end, I'm just going to pop in just a couple more sort of little cacti pieces in between as well, and that will actually help hold some of those rocks in place and just give another sort of shade of green to this one. With how this one is coming up with that wet soap under it at the moment. It looks like there's this really dirty brown river flowing through between the cacti. That sounds really, really bad, doesn't it? But that's what it kind of just looks like, this really nice little riverbed sitting there as well. And I just think these extra little cacti are really bringing it all together and just giving it that little bit of something. Alright, I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to over decorate it. This is kind of happy medium between something being under decorated and being over decorated and then just OTT. OTT tends to kind of work, whereas over decorated doesn't. And there's kind of like this gap in between being under and over that's so hard to sometimes stop at. And if you don't stop at that right sort of just right place, you then have to just go OTT to make it look right at the end. Hope that actually makes sense to people. It's something I've discovered during my time of actual crafting. It's sort of like, yeah, once you've gone past that point of it being just right, you then just have to go all out to actually bring it back to looking as it should. So I'm really pleased with these little rocks. I can't wait to show Mum how I've actually used them. She would quite literally just come around. She came around one day and saw this little pot sitting there at my desk, because I'd often actually just make them up while I was waiting for soaps to set and stuff like that. She asked what I was doing, so I said I was just rolling them up as little stones, and she just started doing them. And then every time she came around, she just rolled me a few more. And then one day I just sat in front of the TV and finished them all off, because I'd actually found my my fragrance that I was going to use, and I knew I needed to get this soap made. So I'm really happy with that. I'm not going to spray any more mica on the top, but what I am going to do is bring you down for a closer look. So here is Succulent Cacti up close. It is looking so gorgeous, just like the cacti gardens that you see in the botanical gardens. That pop of pink on those cacti is just so delicate and pretty. I'm going to leave it sit here overnight, and then we're going to come back and we're going to cut it open and see if those layers look like little stratas through the earth. Okay, so our Succulent Cacti soap is now ready to cut open. I'm really looking forward to seeing what it looks like on the inside. Now this fragrance oil, it is really nice. In the bottle, it does smell quite mellow, quite gentle. And I was a little bit concerned that it really wasn't going to hold up, but it has. And this morning, when I've come out to cut this one, it's almost developed like a green tea sort of fragrance to it as well. So it's just a really nice, clean fragrance. And this one's actually set up quite hard. I'm being gentle. I don't really want to break too many of the flowers, and I'm trying not to dislodge too many of those little stones that are in here. We are almost through, and then we'll see if we got those layers. Alright, so let's take a look inside Succulent Cacti and see what we've got. And that is the inside. I am so pleased with that. That was the drawing that I did, and I don't think I could get it any more accurate if I tried. I am loving those mica lines through there, through here. That apricot kernel just adds that real nice texture to the soap, and it's going to be nice and exfoliating. And that little in the pot swell, and I even did try and draw that little in the pot swell there on my little diagram. So I'm really pleased that has all come together. And that is the top. We've got, on this piece, we've got one of those bigger cacti, and then just some of those smaller ones and some of those little pebbles as well. I am so pleased with how this one has come out. Let's grab one of these. Perhaps don't have those big ones on. In fact, both of those want to come out together. So let's grab the two of them and split them. And there we go. So I am so pleased that I finally found the right fragrance to do this particular soap with. I am really pleased with how those layers have come together, and just looks like those sort of layers you'd find as you dig down through earth, especially in those more desert sort of climates. And those tops of those soaps are just so cute. I think the little pebbles really bring them to life. So I'm really thankful that Mum helped me make more than half of those little pebbles to go in there. Otherwise I might still be making my little rocks to go on this soap. So that is my Succulent Cacti using Brambleberry's Cactus Flower. I do recommend that fragrance. It might not smell like it would be much out of the bottle, but it has really come together in this soap. So really pleased with that. I hope you have enjoyed watching how I make my succulent cacti. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. If you've got any questions, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And until the next video, I hope you have a great one, and I will see you then. Bye.